Hey guys, it's Dan with Philosophical Fishing. Thanks for coming back for another video. If you're new, feel free to like and subscribe. If you're interested in coaching or feel so led to donate, there's a link tree in the description box that you can go down and sign up for coaching, or if you feel so led, you can make a donation. Everybody who's signed up, who's donated, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to you guys. And today I wanted to talk about the first time that I ever tried benzos and what that was like for me, and kind of the subsequent scariness of living life without benzos, and how that was and how that felt for me. Because if you're anything like me, to be honest, when I first tried benzos, it really worked. I mean, let's be honest, right? Let's stop kidding ourselves. The first time I ever really tried benzos, and it did for me something that I was always kind of looking for, which was to feel okay in my skin, to have this ease and comfort that I could never find just in and of myself. I didn't have the resources, the tools, the capacity to do it. I had a lot of trauma from my childhood that was unprocessed, that I didn't know how to deal with. And I was always looking for something to kind of alleviate that, to take away my anxiety, my just kind of fear of life, and my awkwardness around social situations, around people, and just life in general. I just had this kind of chronic dis-ease in life that I didn't know how to treat. And once I found benzos, it was the perfect match. It was the antidote that I was always looking for life. And I know that's not everybody's story. You know, a lot of people just inadvertently get harmed by doctors, and I understand and appreciate that too. So maybe this video isn't for you, but if it is, I'm talking to the person who took benzos and it alleviated that discomfort that you had with life, that awkwardness, that anxiety, maybe even some depression that you had, and it made you feel the way that you wanted to feel, so that you could come out of your shell and break out of that mold and feel like you could actually show up as yourself, and it broke down that barrier between you and the rest of the world. That's what it did for me. It was a really, really deep spiritual thing that it did for me. It was a psychological thing. It was a mental thing. You know, what benzos initially did for me was to make me feel okay enough about myself in my skin to give me the confidence that I needed to face life, I thought, successfully. And I was an alcoholic, and so it actually allowed me to stop drinking as much, because the drinking and the drugs were all taking a heavy toll on my life to where I could barely function anymore. And when I found benzodiazepines, it seemed to take the place of all that other stuff, to where I could kind of push the hard drugs and the heavy drinking out of my life. And I could just take now this little pill from the doctor, and it would make everything okay. And, you know, it allowed me to go back to school and to complete college, and just to live life unencumbered by the heavy drugs and the heavy drinking. So, you know, I thought initially that I had found something that could help me survive and subsist, even though I still knew that taking benzos was not going to be the be-all end-all to rescue me and save me. But I thought that if I could just take it for long enough to get through college, to get a decent job, then I could maybe someday stop using it, and then I'd be okay. That was my crazy thinking at the time. Obviously, that's not what happened. And if you stay on benzos for any length of time, you know how hard it is to come off them. Obviously, if you're watching this channel, you're probably here because you're either struggling to come off a benzo, or you've recently come off a benzo and you're really, really struggling because it's damaged you so badly. The initial help that I thought I got from the benzos turned out, obviously, to be a horrendously dangerous, terrible, destructive drug for me. And so after being on benzos for 13 years and coming off of them abruptly in 9 days in a treatment center, I was now faced with having to live life completely without the assistance of any chemical in my body, without any benzodiazepine. I was horrifically damaged. I've talked about this so much at length, I'm not going to get into it in this video. If you want to find out how badly benzos damaged me, go back and watch some of my older videos where I talk about that in pretty big detail. So I was terrified to live life without benzos. Absolutely terrified. How was I going to do anything without a benzo? To go to a job interview, to show up for my daughter's dance recital, to do anything, to drive down the street, to walk down the street, to have a conversation with somebody. How was I going to do this stuff without the use of a benzo? You know, I felt completely naked and alone without a benzo going through life, and it was like pins and needles coming at me all the time. It was so hard. And, you know, I often think about it now as like having to learn how to walk again. It's like a baby being born. You're an infant. You're learning life again. You're learning how to do basic things, basic mundane things like going to the grocery store is a huge deal for a lot of us. And every time that I think I went through something that was really difficult, I got my sea legs under me just a little bit more. Like I got a little bit more confidence. I gained a little bit of strength. And each time I went through a difficult situation without the use of benzos, it was like adding a little bit to my reservoir. You know, it was building me up bit by bit by bit. And now I oftentimes think about it like the movie Dumbo from the 1940s, where, you know, he thinks he needs the magic feather to fly. And it turns out at the end of the movie, you know, he loses his feather and then he starts flying anyways because he has big ass ears and he can fly with his ears. You know, I know it's a silly example, but I think it's relevant to benzo withdrawal because for so long, benzos were my crutch. I needed them. I had to have benzos to get through the day. And there was just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's the way it was going to be. And then to realize, oh my God, like I can do life. I can show up, you know, and successfully face life without benzos. Holy crap. It was painful. And it's still, you know, I face things that are very anxiety inducing for me, but I'm able to go through them and I'm able to have real peace, real joy, real comfort that doesn't come from benzos today. I never had that until I came off of benzos, had my spiritual experience, and then learned to integrate that spiritual experience into my life, where now I do have that stuff. It's amazing that I have that today. And that's what I want to share with people. And I want people to know that you can have that too. You know, you don't have to have benzos in your life. You don't have to be reliant on that. You don't have to be reliant on any psychiatric med, antidepressants. You can live without the use of psychiatric drugs, just breathing air, eating food, resting. And, you know, it's hard when you first come off. It's hard to see that. And it's really scary to think that you could ever go through difficult situations and survive it without the use of drugs, particularly benzodiazepines or other psych drugs. You know, for me, I used a lot of different drugs, a lot of different illicit substances, alcohol, to get through life. And so the thought for me of being able to just face life, face difficult things and go through them without using, drinking, taking pills was a really, really scary proposition. And I think I had to hear from other people who came before me that this was possible. And so for me, in my recovery community, I had a lot of those people helping me out along the way and showing me that it was possible. And so I want to do that for others. I want to be there for you to let you know that you can do this too. You can do it. You can come off of benzos. You can get past it. You can get past all the damage, and you can get to the other side where you can actually live a good life. And it's taken me time. I've been off of everything for 7.5 years, actually closer to 8. It'll be 8 years in a couple months. And just to know that you can do it. You can do this. You know, I think back to a story about how I was so afraid of heights growing up. And I don't know where that came from, but I hated heights. I was always scared of it. I used to have a friend in childhood who had a tree house, and we would go climb to the top. And every time I got to the top, I was like, oh, like crap, I can't take this. It's so scary. And one time my friends and I were climbing the side of this building. We were in our 20s, and we found this fire escape alongside this old building. downtown, and it was probably like 10 stories tall. It was a really tall building, and there's this old rickety fire escape. And we had to jump. We would like stack up some boxes or something and then jump to the first rung so we could pull ourselves up to even the first platform. And then we ascended this old rickety fire escape to the top of this building, hoping to get all the way to the tippy top so we could get on the roof and go hang out up there. So we go all the way as high as we can go, and we get to the top platform. And once at this top platform, there's another, I don't know, maybe 10 feet to the roof. And this 10 feet was an open ladder with no cage around it. So if you climbed this ladder to the very top, you know, you were unprotected. And if you fell, you were probably falling 10 stories down, unless the platform right underneath caught you. So it was scary as hell. And I have this fear of heights, and I was with, I think, 3 of my other friends. They climbed the ladder to the top, got to the top, and they're all trying to cheer me on. Come on, Dan, you can get it. You can come to the top. You can do it. You know, this will overcome your fear of heights if you do this. And by the way, I'm not advocating that anybody ever do this. Do not climb to the top of an old building on a fire escape. Do not do this. I'm not telling anybody that this is a good idea. I'm just sharing a story with you. So anyway, I did. I overcame my fear. I climbed up this ladder. I got to the rooftop, and I was so proud of myself that I did it. And it actually did alleviate a lot of my fear of heights when I did that, because I faced it and I overcame it. Probably really dumb thing to do. I was in my early 20s. I was stupid, but I did it. And I just share this story to point out that it applies to coming off of benzos. The same principle applies, that if I'm just willing to go through uncomfortable circumstances and scenarios, and I'm just willing to face things in my life without the use of benzos, then each time that I do those things, I have a good chance of overcoming more and more of my fear, to where it strengthens me and it builds me up from the inside. And those are the things that I had to learn coming off of benzos. I had to learn those things bit by bit by bit, each situation one at a time over the years. And I keep learning. I'm never done learning. You know, I'm still being fortified from the inside out. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still learning how to do life, and, you know, learning all these lessons that maybe I should have had in my 20s and 30s or teen years, but I didn't, because I was in the fog. I was medicated. I was on drugs. I was crazy, whatever. I'm still learning how to do that stuff. And I'm grateful today that I get the opportunity to do that. And I'm not here to say that it's easy, because it's not. It's hard. It's hard stuff, you know, having to grow up for me and be an adult and learn these lessons now in my late 30s, and now I'm in my early 40s and I'm learning this stuff. But so what? I'm not on anybody else's timeline, and I learn these lessons when I do. I get to them when I do, and I'm still growing up at 42 years old. So here we are. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope that I've said something that helps you. You know, basically, the long and the short of it is, I want you to know that, you know, if a goofball like me can come off of benzos, be horribly damaged, and come out the other side and learn how to live life, I believe that this is possible for anybody else out there. So I want you to know that you can do this too. I love you guys. I'm going to keep making these videos as long as they're helpful. If you guys have any suggestions or comments, any ideas for topics that you'd like to see me cover, anything that I can do for you guys, please let me know. I love you. I'll see you in the next video.